are live. Hey guys, how's it going? This is a channel of Ice and Fire, and today we are doing the final stream for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms for the final episode, episode 6, The Morrow. And suffice to say, I would say that this was honestly a really good finale. I did have some major and some minor complaints with it all, but all in all, it was a very, very, very satisfying conclusion, and it honestly was a great first season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. When the show was about to premiere, I was very worried that without all the dragons and all the battles, this show would kind of suffer a bit. But thankfully, it's doing remarkably well. Excuse me, I apologize. But yeah, this season has been nothing short of phenomenal, and this episode was a good way of pretty much closing out everything that was pretty much like reeling from the Trial of Seven, and a good way of saying goodbye to everyone from the Ashford tourney. And there was a lot of emotion, especially with Maekar and Dunk. And speaking of which, you can notice in the little below the screenshots, I made a little bit of models for Maekar and Dunk as of now. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the opening scene. I didn't mind the jazz. Well, actually, let me correct myself. I didn't mind the way the episode opened, but the jazz music, it doesn't really fit for the show. And this also includes to the final credit music. I don't know. The track for this season for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I don't know, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Most of it has been spot on, especially the Ashford journey scene. That track was amazing. But like I said, the jazzy part for when Lionel and his maester come up to help Dunk, I don't know, it felt unneeded. It felt like it didn't belong, if that makes sense. But I think it was very funny that Lionel brought the worst maester imaginable while also bringing some booze to drink with. It's very interesting that Lionel has... Oh, hang on. Let me just get here. Oh, there we are. Now, for Lionel to make his offer to take Dunk under his wing at Storm's End, that was a really nice addition. It didn't happen at all in the books. In fact, Lionel doesn't really show up until, like during the jousting scenes and during the Trial of Seven. But in this show, they have done a really remarkable job of fleshing out his character. Though, I think many of us can agree here that the biggest thing I really hoped to see but never got was Lionel laughing when he was charging in the list and knocking off ornaments off his opponents' helms. It doesn't really... I mean, the show does do a great way of showing him as the Laughing Storm, but not in the way that the novella described it, if that makes sense. I mean, he's always laughing, he's always joking about, but, I don't know, like I said, I would have preferred having him, laughing at his opponents when he charges at them during the tourney, which never happens. But, I digress. And again, I don't know why he brought the worst maester, who declared that he was going to die, Whereas we all know that he wasn't. He just got supremely banged up. And I love that Dunk pretty much sees himself as being a wrecking ball. Like, he's just a destructive force. I love that he has that survivor's guilt because of Baelor's death. And here, the part where Lionel is saying only good dragon is a dead dragon, this raises one of my major complaints with the show, is that the anti-Targaryen stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I get why they're doing this, because to show that without the dragons, the Targaryens aren't as held up in high esteem as they used to be, as we see in House of the Dragon. But it's the setting. Like, if it was under Aerys the First or Maekar, this I would understand. Even during Aegon the Fourth, because his reign was marked by similar anti-Targaryen sympathies. But here, it's set during the reign of Daron the Good, a king who is beloved by his lords and commons. But in the show, they're making everyone just anti-Targaryen, especially the future Lord of Storm's End. I mean, it kind of, I don't know, it makes me very, it's a mixed bag with me. I get why the Fossaways are anti-Targaryen, because they most likely have supported House Blackfyre during the first Blackfyre Rebellion. But for a Lord Paramount, or a future Lord Paramount, to denounce the Targaryens as evil and dishonorable, it kind of scratches me the wrong way, if that makes sense. And especially, later on, Lionel betroths his children to Targaryens. First, his daughter to Duncan the Small, and his son with Princess Raelle. So, for him to say only good dragon is a dead dragon, it doesn't really make sense why he would betroth his children to people he despises. I don't know. And I do love that Dunk calls him out on it, because Baelor fought and died for him, and Lionel's just shading on him. It makes no sense to me. And when Lionel pretty much debunks him in saying that the Humphreys, Riesling, and the Apple Boy, the very Apple Boy that he knighted, fought for him, while Baelor simply fought against men who couldn't kill him. I don't know. Lionel, he only participated in the Trial of Seven because it was the first in 100 years, and he wanted the glory. The Humphreys fought for him only because they wanted payback on Aerion. Whereas, Baelor and Raymond, they fought for him. They actually believed in him. Oh, and I also forgot Riesling. He only fought because he was a religious hermit knight. I don't know. Lionel's character, like I said, I do love Lionel's character in this show. It's just, all this anti-Targaryen stuff, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. And I pointed this out to Quinn the GM and Fantasy Haven during their live stream yesterday. They said it was pretty much the beginning of the anti-Targaryen stuff. Which, again, I get, but if it was during the reign of someone called Daron the Good, I don't know, it doesn't fit, in my opinion. I don't know. But, again, I do love the relationship between Lionel and Dunk. They do have a bit of a bromance going with them. Though I have been wondering, Lionel has a bit of Renly in him, if that makes sense for those who have read and watched Game of Thrones and the A Song of Ice and Fire books. I sense there's a bit of a bisexual vibe with Lionel. I think it goes beyond just brotherly love that makes Lionel give Dunk that kind of motivates Lionel to make Dunk this offer. I think he kind of has a secret thing for him. I don't know. But let's move on to the funeral scene. Now, I love this scene. It was very heartbreaking to see Egg and Maekar just continuing on in silence as Baelor's body is burned. Though, personally, in my opinion, I would have loved to see Baelor in his armor and golden half-helm as what we saw in the graphic novel. Because before he got torched in his funeral scene, he had donned a sort of armor and a half-helm. But in here, it's kind of just, he's just burned alive. But it does make sense to kind of, like, I don't know, it kind of makes sense to burn it out just so, to keep it really short and simple. But I do find it interesting that it's more of a private funeral because in the graphic novella, it's a big... Baelor's funeral is attended by almost everyone at Ashford. But here it's kind of more private. I don't know if it's meant to signify how Maekar just wants to keep it within the family, or if it just shows the continuing dwindling influence of House Targaryen. But I do find it interesting that we have numerous other silver-haired individuals. These two, beside Maekar and Egg, I'm more than convinced that the old man is Viserys Plum. Because, for those who don't know, Viserys Plum is the son of Aelena Targaryen and the old Lord Plum. So it would make sense for him to have a silver gold, well, the usual silver hair, and his age kind of matches. I don't know. But, I've seen people commenting that he could be, before the episode even aired, there have been people who said, oh, this is Aerys, or even Daron the Good. I'm more of a fence that it was just Viserys Plum just hanging out there. I don't know. But, back to what I was saying, I love how Maekar just stands there in, like, his bruised face and just looks solemn and quiet. I love that he's putting up a bold front, but you can tell he's something died with Baelor. I want to point this out here. Sam Spurrell is just doing he pretty much carried this entire episode. The scenes with him and Dunk were personally my favorite, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But moving on to when Dunk tries to offer condolences to Velar. Honestly, I love Oscar Morgan's portrayal as Velar here. In the novella, Velar is dismissive and very, like, hostile towards Dunk. Understandably so, because the trial of Seven that Baelor fought for him, it cost him his life. He lost a father because of Dunk. But in here, Velar kind of blames himself because his father died in his armor, whereas sons die in their father's armors, but rarely do they die in their sons. So Velar he somewhat blames himself for Baelor's death. And the quote, "Why would the gods take him and leave you?" It's not so much as being venomous, it's kind of like a query. Like, why did this happen? Why did a great man who had it in him to be a great king was taken away so soon? It makes Velar less of a dick and more of a son who's questioning why this happened. I personally like show Velar over book Velar. And I kind of like that Velar isn't really, he does blame Dunk, but it's not like venomous. It's not like he downright hates him. The question that he poses on Dunk, he's looking for an answer. He's not like, get out of my face. He's like, what? Like, he's trying to seek answers from Dunk. But yeah. The next scene with Dunk meeting up with Raymond, honestly, I thought it was very touching to see them having a goodbye hug. Well, not a goodbye hug, because they encounter each other later. But it was nice to see them kind of reuniting after the Trial of Seven. And I don't really have the photo here, but it was very nice to see that they actually confirmed that they were going to bring up the Green Apple Fossaways in this scene, rather than what we probably should have gotten in the next episode, in the previous episode, I would say. But yeah, it was very nice to see the Green Apple sigil on the shield, and it's very interesting that Raymond lost his tent because Stefan was being so bitter that he lost. And it was a very nice way to show that this began the split, that began the Green Apple Fossaways. And it was very, I was not expecting to see Red, aka Rowan, show up and just overnight marry Raymond. And already been pregnant. And I think it's kind of bringing a bit of a Cersei, Joffrey, Tom and Marcella / Rhaenyra, Jace, Luke, and Joff situation. That the future Green Apple Fossaways aren't really Fossaways. They're most likely meant for Dondarrions. Yeah, I'm sure Vaemond Velaryon would have a bit of say to that. And I love Dunk's reaction to the whole situation, just looking like it was so comedic. I actually chuckled a bit, but it was it was very, very surprising. But you know what? I'm down with that. It was very, very unexpected, but a welcome one. But let's move on to, like I said, this is my favorites. The Maekar scenes with Dunk are by far my favorite from the episode itself. Maekar, I want to praise Sam Spurrell's portrayal as Maekar here. All throughout the scene, you could tell that he is emotional. He does put up a bold, stern front in front of Dunk, but you can tell that behind his sternness, he's broken. He's trying to hold back his grief. It's very, very touching. I can't praise Sam Spurrell even more for being Maekar. When I remembered 2 years ago, during House of the Dragon Season 2, when the casting was revealed and we saw Spurrell as Maekar, I knew from the get-go, this is Maekar. This guy is going to portray him in the best way possible, and here, I am so glad that I have been vindicated. Um, but their entire conversation pretty much goes hand in hand based on what we saw in the graphic novella. Well, in the novella itself, and also the graphic novel. Um, but as Fantasy Haven brought up in the stream yesterday with Quinn the GM, I would have preferred if Maekar went to Dunk in his campsite beneath the elm tree. It adds on to Maekar's character that he's humbling himself to go to Dunk, rather than Maekar summoning Dunk to come to him. But, I don't know. But, all throughout their conversation, you can tell that Maekar is still very angry at Dunk for all that has happened. With Baelor, with Arian, with pretty much everything. But, the fact that he offers him a place at Summerhall and continues to mentor his young son, you can tell that Maekar, his attitude, I mean, it's still like pompous, princely attitude, but this offer that he gives to Dunk really shows how Maekar evolves, because in episode 2, he views Dunk with just disdain and hatred. And while that hatred still lingers in this episode, he develops like something of a respect for Dunk, even going so far as to offer to have his own training continue on with his own master at arms. It shows you what kind of man Maekar is. Oh hey, Christy Angel. Hope you're doing well, my friend, and I hope you enjoyed the finale as I did. But back to what I was saying. Maekar's offer to Dunk really shows what kind of man Maekar is. Honestly, I would dare say that Stannis Parrell's portrayal of Maekar is basically what we should have seen from Stannis from Game of Thrones. Because Stannis in the books he's stern, but he's also generous. He has the anger in him, but there is a bit of benevolence with him. That's why many people call him the King Who Cared. And honestly, I think Maekar in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is basically what Stannis should have been in Game of Thrones, in my opinion. But it was very interesting that Dunk just outright refuses to take egg. That he just wants to be as far away from princes as possible. I guess in Dunk's view, everything he touches dies. Rafe, Arlen, Baelor. I guess he views himself as like a walking plague. And he just wants to be as far away from all these lords and knights as possible, to roam the Seven Kingdoms on his own. But when Egg and Dunk have that little chat in the hallway, I honestly feel for Egg, man. He really wants to be with Dunk. He views him as the parental figure that Maekar isn't, really. And when he says, "Sir," the way he says that, man, you could tell that he's just sad. He wants to be with Dunk, but Dunk is like, nah, not me. It was very, very sad to see. Yeah, I honestly, I can't praise Dexter Saul Ansel even more as Egg. He just does an amazing job. I really hope to see more of him, more of his antics in the second season, as they're currently filming the second season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is based on the Sworn Sword, which I will not Spoil for the sake of those who have not read the novellas, but I highly recommend you should. Hang on. And this brings up to the flashback scene with Dunk and Arlen at Pennytree just before Arlen died. And when Arlen is about to tell his story, I was almost, when he said, "Have you ever heard the story?" I was genuinely thinking that he was going to talk about the Last Dragon. Because, for those who don't know, Arlen, when he was a boy, he saw the Last Dragon before it died. Ooh, excuse me. And I thought then and there, okay, we're getting more lore on the Last Dragon. But instead of that, he talks about the Pennytree. Basically the large tree that is on that is based on the town of the same name. And there he says that boys, when they're summoned to war, they nail a penny on the tree, and those who return take the penny out. And I believe those pennies on the tree were brought up in a sample chapter of The Winds of Winter. It's a nice way of exploring a bit of lore that we might not see for The Winds of Winter, seeing as it's been more than a decade. So, yeah. But in this flashback, it all but confirms that Dunk was never knighted by Arlen, that he died before ever knighting Dunk. And as this flashback progresses, I kind of wonder if this is actually a flashback or Dunk's memory of it, while also narrating, "Why did you never knight me? Do you think I would leave you? Because I wouldn't." I think that was kind of Dunk's mentality. And I think it was then that Arlen actually died. That he didn't wake up and say, and that's how it is called the Pennytree. And I like the quote when a true knight finishes his story. That's probably a jab on George R.R. Martin for, again, the huge delay on The Winds of Winter. But yeah. And this brings up to one of the most memeable characters of all time in his coffin. I'm referring to, of course, to Humphrey Beesbury. And the fact that he has his coffin swarmed with bees is just hilarious. I mean, we have the Targaryens with funeral pyres, the Tullys with setting their boats alight in a Viking style, the Velarans dumping their caskets into the sea, and now we have Beesburys covering their coffins with bees, thanks to a queen bee that they stuffed inside the coffin. It was just... I love that Humphrey Beesbury, having only gotten one line, has become a global, like a universal meme icon for some reason. Oh. And also, if you'll notice, the Donald Duskendale and Roland Craycall are in the tent right beside the coffin. Either they just want to grab a drink, or they're commemorating the night that one of them accidentally killed. But why are there kids underneath a coffin full of bees? If that were me, I would get as far away from that coffin as possible. I don't know. It was just weird. But also, those Kingsguard could be protecting a certain prince. That's right. Daron Targaryen, Daron the Drunken, has an additional scene here, and he just joins in on this funeral scene, uh, despite the fact that he's responsible for his death. He's responsible for uh, the Humphrey's death, and Dunk calls him out on it. He pretty much says, "Have you no shame? These men are dead because of you, because of your lie." And Daron's shrug at it, it definitely fits it definitely fits his character as someone who just doesn't care. He just wants to get a drink. But I do like that Daron pretty much tells Dunk that Aryan wasn't born mad. He was a happy child. And it was then that made Dunk realize that, yes, I need to take Egg as a squire. Far away from Aryan, from Daron, from Maekar, basically away from all the princely atmosphere. Like, he needs to live like a commoner to be a better man. To be a better man than Daron, to be a better man than Aryan. So he can be his own man. And honestly, I do love that Daron, for all his faults, he does care about Egg. He definitely wants Egg to be in a better environment than at Summerhall, where he can only like suffer under a drunkard and a full-blown psychopath. So, yeah, as much as I do like agree with Dunk that Daron is a bad knight and a worse brother, Daron does still care for Egg. And this brings up to my favorite scene in the entire... This is one of my favorite moments from the entire episode. And honestly, I would say the entire show itself. The Egg scene where he takes his food knife and tries to kill Aryan in his bed, only for Maekar to show up and comfort his son. It was very touching. Like, we've seen Maekar be the stern parent figure for Aryan and Daron, but for Egg, he only shows tenderness and understanding. He's not berating him, he's not yelling at him, he holds him and hugs him. It really shows that Maekar really does care for Egg, because in the Mystery Night, it's revealed that Maekar views Egg as his favorite son, and you can clearly tell by this scene, he does care for Egg. He loves him, and he wants what is best for him. Even though his methods aren't as good, I would say. But, yeah, I just love the portrayal of... Honestly, the performance of Dexter and Sam Spruell here is just phenomenal. Honestly, Dexter deserves an Emmy. I mean, I've said that before with Patty Considine's Viserys the First, but I mean it then, and I mean it here. Dexter deserves an Emmy. Even for a kid, for an 11-year-old kid, he definitely deserves it. That's all I'm gonna say. But this brings up to the next scene with Maekar and Dunk. Oh, no, actually, it brings up to Dunk and Lord Ashford's daughter. Back in my video for episode 2, I found it very odd that the girl pretty much teased Dunk, but now it's dawned on me that she was kind of crushing on him, and you can clearly tell from her interaction with Dunk in episode 6 that she likes him, that she was tearful and wants him to know she doesn't blame him, that he was in the right for what he did. But yeah, it was clear that Lord Ashford's daughter just had a big old crush for Dunk, and that's why she teased him about it in kind of the usual girly way, I would say. Well, not girly way, but you get what I mean. But back to Maekar and Dunk. I I can definitely tell that Maekar hates Ashford and still is less than fond of Dunk, as he pretty much says, "Speak quickly, I'm soon gone from this place." It's clear that Maekar is traumatized by everything that happened, and he pretty much wants to leave everything behind. But Dunk's offer to train Dunk to train Egg, I would say, on his own, far from princely life and living as a commoner, you could tell that Maekar is disgusted by this. He was disgusted, but when he leaves and says, "He's my last son," he wants his son. He wants his son to be better, but he wants to train him his way. He wants Dunk to be with Egg, but on Maekar's terms, not with Dunk's. But I did again. This scene here pretty much goes on bit by bit as what we saw in the novella. Again, not in the castle, but in Dunk's encampment in the forest. Honestly, I would have preferred that over the plumber's weird offer to Dunk in episode 3. I didn't really feel like that scene needed to happen. I would much prefer if Maekar and Dunk were there in this episode. But I digress. Oh, also, the fact that he called Egg his last son, he clearly forgets about Maester Aemon. Though, knowing Maekar, he probably views Aemon being at the Citadel as shameful, because Maekar is obviously the warrior prince. He wants his children to be warriors, not maesters and nerds and stuff like that. But yeah, I really hope we see a young Maester Aemon in season 2 or maybe 3 in a flashback. It would be very nice to see a young Aemon Targaryen. But yeah. But let's move on to I would say, the last scene with Dunk in his elm tree encampment. It was very nice to see. It was very nice to see the reunitement with Dunk and Sweetfoot. Because in the novella, we never get any closure with Sweetfoot. In the novella, she disappears altogether. She doesn't appear at all after Dunk sells her. But here, it's very nice to see that Raymond bought Sweetfoot and tried to give it back to Dunk. Well, Dunk pretty much says, "No, she's yours. You helped me out all throughout this horrible ordeal. You can have my horse." And here, it was very nice to see New Barrel being kind of teased a bit, with Dunk asking Raymond what he'll do next now that he's been exiled by Stefan. The fact that the Green Apple Fossaways began as cider merchants, it's very interesting. I wonder how they become landed knights, like as we see in the books, because the only way I could see the Green Apples becoming landed knights would either be during Maekar's reign, or eggs? Probably eggs, because Egg is more generous to his friends rather than Maekar. But I digress. It was very nice to see the farewell between Dunk and Raymond here, and I mean, I'm a bit mixed with Raymond a bit. I loved that he was pretty much the little brother to Dunk. Ooh, excuse me. But also, he did kind of portrayed as a bit of an annoying, that annoying friend, if that makes sense. But again, I can see why many people love him. To me, he's kind of, I don't know, kind of the annoying little friend, if that makes sense. But the final scene with Dunk leaving Ashford and tending to his horses, it was so sweet, and it made us wonder whether or not Maekar would accept Dunk's offer and send Egg to be with Dunk. And it's really nice that we got all the horse names out, because we had Thunder's name in episode 3, Sweetfoot in this episode, and now with Chestnut, because I don't believe any of the other horses were named all up until this point. But again, I thought the scene was phenomenal. Again, it was almost directly from the books, especially when Egg emerges and says, "My Lord Father told me I would squire for you." And I love the rebuff with Dunk saying, "Serve you, sir." It was very nice to see that we got that their story isn't done, that they're going to continue all their adventures across Westeros. But the fact that Egg had to fact check Dunk about there being 9 kingdoms out of 7, I get why they added the scene to make Egg kind of seem like the well, actually kind of kid. Whereas the name Seven Kingdoms came from the 7 realms that Aegon conquered, or tried to conquer in this case, with the north, the Kingdom of the Isles and the Rivers, the Vale of Arryn, the west, the Reach, and the Principality of Dorne, which Aegon obviously never conquered. But I digress. But it was I loved the closing scene with Dunk and Egg just riding off into the sunset with Arlen Pennytree falling behind them, only to turn in the opposite direction, to show that one night's tale is done while another's begins. It was very touching to see, and I just love the track. I just love the setting, the sunset. It was all fantastic. But it's kind of sidelined with the post-credit scene. With the Targaryens leaving Ashford and Maekar, wondering where Egg is. Because, as it's revealed here, Maekar never agreed to send Egg to be with Dunk. That Egg just ran off with Dunk again, as we saw from episode 1. I don't know. To me, it kind of detracts Maekar and Egg's character arcs a bit. In the beginning, Maekar was the stern warrior prince that had a contempt for peasants and hedge knights, only to later relent and agree, yeah, this is better for my son to be with this hedge knight, to live with the people rather than with nobles and royals. But here, I don't know. I can see this as a way of bringing Sam Burrell back as Maekar, potentially in Season 3. And I'll go over that in a bit. But the fact that Egg lied to him again, that's, I don't know, it's gonna definitely lead to more conflict leading on. I don't know. And it also brings up one very important plot point moving on that I can see being potentially at risk here. And that is the boot. For those who don't know, at the end of the Hedge Knight, Maekar gives Egg his signet ring and instructs to use it only during times of great emergency. So I can either see this working out as Egg steals Maekar's ring before he leaves off with Dunk, or I don't know. It's very hard to tell how this plot point will go forward. But yeah, I'm a bit mixed on it, but closing music for the post-credit scene, like I said with the jazz part, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit at all with this show. It doesn't fit. I get with A Knight's Tale, the Knight's Tale movie that they added in random music, it fits. It's been used all throughout the movie. But as here, it's just used in a random time. I don't know. It kind of detracts the ending, the beautiful ending that we got with Dunk and Egg and Arlen. I don't know. But with all that said, I would give the Morrow an 8 out of 10. It's still a great closer, better than House of the Dragon episode 8. But I don't know. The certain stuff kind of lessen it down a bit. Maekar's refusal to send Egg to be with Dunk, and Egg running off with Dunk, and the closing music, I don't know. It felt like it kind of took away the energy that the episode was giving off, if that makes sense. But before I close off this stream, I want to bring up the Maekars thing. Now, again, this is a big spoiler warning, so if you guys have not read The Mystery Knight or The Sworn Sword, please close off so you don't get spoiled at all. But in The Mystery Knight, Bloodraven shows up to foil the Second Blackfire Rebellion conspiracy. Now, I can see this working with Maekar, as before leaving off to White Walls, Bloodraven could send word to Maekar that his son is with Dunk. Maekar could show up to reinforce Bloodraven, and Maekar can scold either Dunk or Egg, or hell, even both. Only for Egg to stand up for Dunk and being defiant to his father. And this could be a way of having Maekar consigned to allow Dunk to mentor Egg. I don't know. That is the only way I could see Maekar. This is the only way I could see Ira Parker kind of redeeming Maekar's character arc in this kind of way. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. But with that, I think that will bring the stream to a close. Before I close off, I just want to share you guys what I'll be working on. As of tomorrow, I will be working on the video of Maegor the Cruel. I've seen people commenting that they want more Maegor, and more Maegor you shall have. Just give me one moment. And yeah, here it is right now. This is the thumbnail I have at the moment. I pretty much got all the artwork, all the settings taken care of. I just need to take care of the audio work, and we'll have that ready to go. Oh, before I even do that, okay. And I think that will do it for today. Thank you guys for showing up. I will probably do the same thing with House of the Dragon Season 3 when that drops up in June. But yeah, hope you guys have a great weekend, and keep the notifications, and keep notifications up, because, like I said, I'll be working on Maekar the Cruel, and I will try to get that done as soon as possible. As always, guys, if you guys like animated A Song of Ice and Fire content, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Any of these will help out the channel a ton, and if you guys want to help out the channel even more, there's a Patreon page. It's in the description box below. I share my artwork and notifications with you guys, and the link to our Discord is there. So if you guys want to join up and chat out with me, feel free to do so, as long as you are financially capable, that is. But yeah. Alright guys, well, that will do for the stream. Again, hope you guys have a good weekend, and as always, I will produce more content later on. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and as always, this has been a channel of Ice and Fire.